So my name is Janae Halter with Myomo, and I have been in the field for over 25 years in orthotics and prosthetics, but have been with Myomo for the past 4 years. And we have are working on our device for pediatric version. So this is the timeline where we kind of started. So we had an adult version in 2012, and then an adolescent version, and then in 2023 we're getting ready to launch our pediatric version, which our adult version is called the Myo Pro, and we'll be calling the pediatric version the Myo Pal. So the purpose of this type of device is for it to be a portable, powered upper extremity arm brace for arm paralysis. So this is to enable functional goals as well as therapeutic goals. So holding on to items, stabilizing items, carrying items with two hands is what the goal is with this type of orthosis. So this is the only commercially available device that improves function. We are also we are ordered through a doctor, so a prescription is required for this orthotic device. And it's a custom-made orthosis that once fit, you would use occupational therapists that are trained on the technology to help advance the individuals through use, putting the device on, taking the device off, and how to progress and gain function. So how does this work? So it's actually EMG signal. So we are taking the brain activity and telling the brain asks the body to perform a task. These sensors just sit on the skin, so it's not, there's no stimulation. So it's merely listening to the activity. So once it can detect activity in the arm, it will then translate into motion into the elbow. So it will flex the elbow, extend the elbow, and close and open the hands. So all of this is driven through the brain. So what we're trying to do is reestablish new connection or make a connection that might be weakened stronger. So once it goes through the EMG signal, there's our software, which then we can make adjustments to so that we can amplify or lower the threshold. So it's custom for each individual person. Okay. All right. So here we have a video. This is Sophia. She has Charcot-Marie tooth. In the first video, you'll see what she has available for movement in her arms.
Okay, move your left elbow up. Okay, now move your right elbow up. Right, now, can you show me how you open your right hand? Okay, and now close your right hand. Okay, give me another open. Okay. Great. Now, can you take either of your wrists and turn them towards the floor? Okay, how about the right one? Okay, now, last but not least, on your right shoulder, out to the side. Okay, how about, can you come forward in front of you? Good. How about, can you pull it back towards the wall? Excellent. Now, show me that on your left side. So come forward first. Good. Now come back. And now out to the side. Okay.
So the next video is where this is a early version. So the photos that you're seeing online on our presentation here are early versions of our device. So we have actually changed some things. So he is actually having to stabilize this to her side because it's just a quick put together version. So he's not, the helper is not doing anything other than stabilizing. She's activating this device.
Okay, ready? Up real big. Good, and rest. Okay, you can give me an up again. What's that like, Sophia? Yeah, pretty neat. Your arm feel light when you pick it up.
So the EMG sensor technology has been around since the early 50s. We've used it prosthetically for a long time. We've just never integrated it into using it on the actual muscles that we want to have activated. So this is very exciting for us because we're not artificially stimulating the muscle. It's literally being driven by the brain. So the brain is, again, you're giving the brain the chance to strengthen those neural pathways. So this is Marcus. He's a 9-year-old with cerebral palsy. And again, this is another iteration with and without the device. So this first version, what you'll see, if you can start the video for me.
Marcus, show me how you bend your elbow up.
So he's using a lot of his shoulder muscles, his
one more
back
time.
muscles to just bend his
Okay,
elbow.
now, do it this time. So you're bringing your elbow out to the side. Keep your elbow right next to your body and bring your arm up this way. Okay, don't lift your elbow. Chris, would you restrain that elbow right there? Now, bend your elbow up. That's good, Marcus. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, now, Marcus, can you move your arm forward like this? Okay? Now, move your arm up to the side. Great. Now, last, I want to see your hand. So, show me how your hand closes. You can close those fingers. Okay, now can you open those fingers? Okay.
So again, even though he's telling his arm to do those movements, but they're not strong enough to make those motions. So closing the hand or extending or bending the elbow. And so when we can actually put and amplify those signals, then you'll see an output.
So this is with the anti-rotation strap tighter. Go ahead and bend your elbow up. Much better. Okay, and rest. Remember, don't let that arm come out to the side. I want to see you just bring it straight up. Ready? Up again. Really nice, Marcus. Good job. Okay, and relax. Okay, now face the window and do one of those. Okay, and rest. Great.
So as you can see, the battery pack we had on the back. So like if we were going to do a backpack style, we found that it was just too complicated, too big. So we redesigned some things, and everything's going to be incorporated into the brace itself. And then there will be harnesses to support the weight of the brace. So there's integrity for the shoulder, so that we're supporting the shoulder as well. So everything will be integrated into the brace. There's not going to be a big backpack with a battery. And so what you're seeing there looks like a vacuum. So it is getting better.
Marcus, show me how you bend your elbow up. Marcus, show me how you bend your.
Let's go straight to that one.
Okay. If I hit next.
Marcus.
Okay. All right. And this is Benjamin. He was very excited. He said, "This is what I'm going to do in my Sunday school." So he can raise his hand to ask a question. So it was very cute. So some of the things that we're going to look at here, this is an updated version. It's not the final iteration. So, but you can see the battery will be within the side of the device. There's an upper arm shell. There's a forearm cuff. The wrist action, so turning the wrist up and down and extending and flexing the wrist, will be manual. So it's an easy unlock and lock mechanism that where the child can put the arm or the wrist in a particular position that they want, and that can be adjusted very easily. And then the motors for the fingers. So we're actually going to include all fingers for our pediatric version. The adult version just has a 3-jaw chuck, but we find that it's critical to all the fingers want to join in on the flaps. So some specifications about the orthosis. It's going to be about 2.5 pounds. And again, will be a custom device. So the smaller the person, the less the weight, the bigger the person might be a little bit heavier. But again, we are using a harness to suspend the brace and so that it will never hang down on the arm. Also, we're integrating where it's going to be about a 3-year ability for growth. So length, width, so knowing that the children are going to be growing, we're going to have that as a 3-year, whether it's within the adjustability of the device or if they surpass what the adjustment is, then we're going to make a new device for them. So it's not something that we're going to be doing every single year as far as replacing it, but we want growth to be able to do that. So, and then it also comes with a computer system where the MyConfig is going to be a part of that, and that's used in therapy, so it gives you biofeedback on what the muscles are doing. And it's also going to be used for the occupational therapist so that they can make adjustments and changes, so as the person progresses and gets better at the activities, this can be adjusted through that. And so that's a part of the device that comes with it. And the other part of this that we understand is it's got to be fun, right? So we're going to start off with 3 video games, and we're going to, as we progress and get more video games, it'll just be able to be downloaded from our website so that you can have something fun to play, and they're getting therapeutic exercise. So, and it is Bluetooth, so it communicates via Bluetooth through that. Here's an example of one of the video games. It's a basketball game. I'm not sure if you can. Would this video open up bigger on your screen potentially?
This right here.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Yeah.
So this is an example of our basketball game. So he's practicing how to flex his elbow.
Oh, right behind it.
So there are various difficulty levels that can be played, and it gives you feedback, so it keeps track of how many times they're using the device, for how long. So there's a lot of good feedback to the caretaker, to the rehab team.
I think they're behind me here too.
How do you adjust for strength?
We're getting stuff left and right.
It's about a 2-pound pressure, but within the software.
You can't adjust the strength as a.
7.
So
It has to be, it's set.
So within the software, there's different programs. So there's progressive, or where however much force you put into it is how fast the device will bend the elbow or straighten it or close the hand. So the more effort you put in, the quicker the device will move, or to slower. So there's various things in the program that will allow it to be more a natural movement. So you can go slow or fast, or you can go fast or slow. It's really mimicking how your body moves. So. Right. So that is what we're looking forward to in 2023.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. Am I loud enough?
Yes.
Okay. I was actually wondering if you were measuring muscle growth to see if there was any, response from the muscle to the training that it's getting in the machine.
So I do think that that is something that can be done through your occupational therapist. So doing some pre-testing before and then, throughout that process. As far as measuring, we can measure what amplification there is, and then, is that being lowered or not? So, and obviously the occupational therapist can also measure the muscle belly itself.
Sorry if I missed this, but so for how long is the child's rest? Is this all the time for a certain amount of weeks or months, or what's the dosage?
Yes, no, that's a great question. So the idea is to wear it as much as possible. So after building up to being able to use the device, we like to have it on for about 4 hours a day. If they can build up to more than that, that's ideal. But as far as neuroplasticity, this is something that's going to be helpful in retraining the brain. So the more a person can use it daily, the better information that's going into the brain, better information you're going to get out. So it's not a crutch. So again, it's you're making the brain activate and work, and you're getting that biofeedback from my arm is bending, my arm is extending and closing, and doing those functional tasks. So that's only augmenting, what we want them to be able to do. So as far as neuroplasticity and retraining, if you put the device on for a day and then don't wear it for a week and you're going back and forth, it takes the brain longer to figure out how to remap itself. And that neuroplastic change takes a little bit longer. So.
Do you have any data on the teenage group where it's already been approved for a number of years, either with hysterectomy or other forms of business?
So currently we don't have any studies on that, but we would like to do some form of study in regards to anything regarding improvement. So we do have an outcome measure study that we're currently doing for stroke individuals, but we are obviously open for any information to be able to collect the data showing the efficacy of it.
Do you know about how many numbers you have with it, like how the teenage group?
Well, most of our population right now is adult stroke.
Everyone, good afternoon. Like Monica said, my name is Parag Garg. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Spinex. So all day we've probably been talking about the brain. So let's take one step down to get to the spinal cord. The basic idea here that Reggie has been studying for 54 years now has been that the spinal cord contains the circuitry for all functions, including movement, autonomic function, bladder function, bowel function. The brain, in a lot of cases, gives you the executive command to go or not to go. But how to actually make that happen is controlled by the spine. So, like Monica said, we've been focusing on spinal cord injury at UCLA for many decades now. But over the last 5 years or so, we have shifted focus towards also looking at what happens in the pediatric population. So most of what I'm going to show here is primarily focused on the pediatric population. Most of it on children with cerebral palsy, with a couple examples of children post-hysterectomy surgery. Here's an example of a child with a level 4 CP having undergone extensive physical therapy throughout his entire life. He's about 3 years of age at this point, and his dad is holding him on the treadmill to look at how he can take a few voluntary steps. Now we're going to be using the lower extremity as an example, as a marker of improvement in function, but the same applies for other functions, upper extremity, head control, trunk function, and a few autonomic functions as well. Now, the current standard of care focuses primarily on a lot of physical therapy injections, intramuscular Botox injections. A lot of those are primarily treating symptoms, not treating the underlying condition. The way we like to approach it is with neuromodulation, we're able to treat the underlying condition at hand. Okay, go back. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, SCIP, that's our flagship pediatric device, which is a smaller version of our adult device called SCONE. So, you may see the word SCONE and SCIP being used alternatively. They're pretty much the same. One is a smaller version, which is a pediatric device. The other is an adult version called SCONE. So, SCIP is a non-invasive spinal cord neuromodulator. So, imagine a pacemaker, but instead of activating the heart, here it's activating the spinal cord. And the important fact here is that we're doing this entirely non-invasively. So this is a completely non-surgical approach for treatment. It's low cost. The therapy is completely painless. Therapy can be delivered either at home or in clinic. And we're currently developing this for children with different neurological conditions, including cerebral palsy. Based on the data we have so far, the FDA has recognized this as a breakthrough device, allowing us to accelerate our recovery to our pathway to market access. So what is spinal neuromodulation? The ability to deliver low-intensity electrical pulses into the spine to reactivate and retrain the networks that are controlling movement. We do this by attaching little patch electrodes at specific levels around the spine. So you can see two little round electrodes, one over the neck, one over the mid-back, that sends in low-intensity electrical pulses into the spinal cord. That's hooked up to the device that's attached to the waist belt or a gait belt of the individual, and the therapy is delivered while the kid is undergoing physical therapy or occupational therapy. Our current treatment protocol consists of 2 sessions a week, each session lasting for about an hour a day, over a period of about 8 to 16 weeks. Now, why is it that we do just 1 hour of a day for therapy and not all day long? We could still look at potential improvements over a long period of time, but what we've seen so far is 1 hour per day, twice a week is sufficient to demonstrate significant improvements. But this does not mean that the improvement is limited to when the therapy is being delivered. We see the improvement is sustained for several hours, several days, even after the neuromodulation has stopped. In comparison to current therapies, SCIP is completely non-invasive. It's very specific, allowing us to target the neural networks that are of interest, has already proven to be effective, and so far we have not observed any side effects or adverse events in any of the studies we've conducted. So let's look at a few videos of what kind of improvements are possible. So here's a child with a level 5 CP, which is the most severe form of CP. We're looking at improvement in or changes in head control and trunk function. On the left is in the absence of stimulation versus on the right is with the presence of stimulation. And the mom is essentially lining up her head and trunk so that she's ready for holding it herself voluntarily. There are 2 key aspects here that I want you to note. The first is that the stimulation is delivered at a sub-motor threshold. That wasn't part of the I can show you.
Why not switch something?
No worries. So the stimulation is delivered at a sub-motor threshold. So what does that mean? That the stimulation is not driving the muscle. The stimulation is not driving motor function. There are no twitches observed in the individual. The stimulation is at a sub-motor threshold. So you can feel the stimulation. You can feel a little tingle on the back of the neck, but it never ever actually induces any contractions. And the movement that you see is completely voluntarily controlled. So it's under the will of the child to intend to do that movement. And the second point to observe is, apart from the target here is improvement in trunk and neck function or head control, the overall demeanor and the calmness the child is demonstrating. The legs are calm, the legs are in position, the hands aren't moving around. So there's an overall global improvement in motor function that is observed in this case. The second part of this video would
Too far?
Too far? Yeah. Sorry. That's okay. We'll move. So this next portion would be, so the child you saw earlier with the level 4 CP, here we're looking at his improvement in walking ability. So on the left is in the absence of stimulation versus on the right is in the presence of stimulation. And you can tell that the kid is not under duress, under stress. He's smiling. That's what you'd expect a 3-year-old to do, wanting to just run around as much as possible. So again, all the steps are completely voluntarily driven. None of it is induced by the stimulation. None of it is being forced by the stimulation. It's completely at a sub-motor threshold. And the same will be observed as the child is seated and the stimulation is on. When you ask them what does it feel like, some of the older ones that are more mobile and are able to communicate, they say it's a little tingle and they start giggling and laughing. So that's really what it is. And after about 16 weeks of therapy, this is him at home in the absence of stimulation. So again, completely voluntarily driven. This is the neuroplasticity that's being induced in the brain and spinal cord due to a combination of the therapy and the stimulation that the child is now able to demonstrate this level of functional improvement. And what we observe is the level of functionality is sustained for an extended period of time after the therapy has stopped. And so far what we see is at least 1 to 2 months after the therapy stopped that the child is able to demonstrate this level of improved function. So will it remain for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? We don't know yet, but we know that it's sustained for an extended period of time. And if they continue to do therapy, we see continued improvement in function. We still don't see a plateau in their improvement in function. I have some data that can show you that. So a couple more examples of comparison of before versus after therapy. Here's a child with a level 4 CP at home in their walker, unable to initiate steps. He's trying, as you can see on the left, but just after 8 weeks of therapy, so that's 16 hours of therapy in clinic, he's now able to voluntarily take these steps at home using his walker. And a level 5 CP, which is again the most severe form of CP, taking steps in clinic on the treadmill, completely voluntarily driven, as compared to meeting about 3 people that's helping him take these steps at the start of therapy. So again, key fact here to note is that the steps are completely voluntarily driven, that is not being induced by the stimulation, and the ability to sustain that level of functionality even in the absence of stimulation. Now, a couple of examples of children that were referred to us by Monica. Again, on the left, in the absence of stimulation, this is Hannah. She is, I think, about 14 years of age at the time. The improvements that she demonstrated are a little subtle, and we see, electrophysiological changes on EMG activity, which are much more robust. But you can see the steps are smoother. She's able to clear her ground a little better. Her left leg is further out ahead compared to her right in the absence versus presence of stimulation. But when we asked her, how does she feel? What does she feel like? And she said 2 things which are striking. The first is that it feels like I'm gliding. That it's just so much easier to actually take steps. And the other was her legs feel lighter, and that she's able to actually sense what it feels like when she's taking a step. So the key, again, sensation is not something that's very well studied or very well understood. And the best way that I like to describe it is the human body, or the spinal cord, is like a GPS system. If you were to drive from point A to point B, you don't really need to know where you are at point A to know how to get to point B. And there are 1,000,001 ways to make that journey. But if you don't know where you are at point A, you're just going to go around in circles. And that's really what sensation is, what it tells you where you are in space. And that's what she was able to describe to us, that she can sense what it feels like every time the foot strikes the ground, what it feels like for the foot to be on the ground. And this is Jeremy. Jeremy is about 3 years of age, and this is the acute effect. So immediately after the neuromodulation is turned on, and you can see the left side a little smoother, few straighter steps that are being placed in the presence versus absence of stimulation. It's not the easiest of tasks to get a child to walk on a treadmill, as you can tell. And he then underwent activity-based training in our training for about 8 weeks. And at the end of that 8-week period, you can see, I'm just running the video a few times in slow motion for you to really see the difference. His left leg was a lot straighter, was a lot easier for him to be taking those steps. He was quicker in taking those steps. And you can see I'm freezing the image there. See the placement of the foot after compared to before therapy. This is again in the absence of active neuromodulation. What does the data actually look like? So GMFM88 is a gold standard metric for sensory motor function in children with cerebral palsy, which measures motor function for upper extremity, trunk, neck, and lower extremity. So it's a whole encompassing outcome measure. And we break them down into two separate groups, the blue and the orange. The blue is for children level 1 and 2, which are the more functional levels, and 4 and 5 are the more impaired functionalities. And you can see we demonstrate a clinically and statistically significant improvement in these scores. If you look at the right side panel across the different age groups, all of them demonstrate that significant improvement, and the green line there lines up what that threshold is that's set by the FDA. And all of them so far demonstrate a significant improvement. In some cases, you see a larger improvement, and most likely seems to occur with children that are in the younger category. We still don't have sufficient data to really make a strong case, but the trend so far seems to indicate that. I'm highlighting the little red dot there, the red circle, the blue dot, that's Jeremy, who demonstrated about a 34-point change in the DMFM-88 score, which is probably the maximum improvement that we've seen from our cohort of about 16 kids that we've worked so far. So the takeaway from this is spinal neuromodulation seems to have a significant impact on their sensory motor function, which we're able to demonstrate by these scores. This is what we had shared with the FDA, which led to the breakthrough device designation, which was awarded to us in April of this year. So our vision here is with SKIP, for a child with sensory motor dysfunction. Introduction of SKIP will allow them to voluntarily go from a wheelchair-bound position to being able to stand, step, hopefully being involved in play-like activities and improve inclusion with their peers. So to briefly touch upon what the mechanism of action here is, for those interested, the brain sends the commands, takes the command to go or not to go. In the absence of neuromodulation, there's a lot of co-contraction of muscles that should be acting in opposite natures are working together. So take examples of your bicep and tricep. For you to contract your elbow, you need to have them working opposite of each other. In the cases of CP, they're pretty much acting simultaneously, because of which they're not actually able to generate those movements. When you introduce SKIP, what it essentially does is it reorganizes the network in the spinal cord such that the communication between the brain and spinal cord is in a more efficient manner. Thereby, the activation of the muscles is in a greater level of synchronicity, such that the contractions between antagonistic muscles, biceps and triceps, for example, are alternating rather than occurring simultaneously. The second, which we touched upon earlier, which is proprioception or sensory information, is again synchronous with the activity in the brain, thereby allowing the brain, spinal cord, and the sensory information from the periphery to act in unison to generate more functional movements. And this is sort of a summary of what that looks like, where we are able to increase the amount of communication between the brain and spinal cord. The coordination between muscles which are of interest is more efficient. The processing of proprioceptive or sensory information in the spinal cord is occurring in an effective manner and leads to increased sensation, thereby resulting in improved motor function in these individuals, both acutely and chronically. So, where are we in this roadmap? So, when I listed out as from 1968 to 24, that's primarily because all the work that we're doing here over the last 3 or 4 years has been a result of work done by Reggie and others since 1968 at UCLA. Our first MVP for that's kind of Spinix build was built in early 2020 of May, led to the first human studies, including Hannah in the month of November 2020. We began our training as early as April 2021, and our breakthrough device was awarded in April of this year. And finally, we're currently in discussions with the FDA to understand what the requirements would be to get this device approved, and we hope to conduct our clinical trial early next year, so that it will be approved by 2024. So, that's just a summary of our team. You've heard the name Reggie from by me a few times now. He's been sort of the father figure of this technology and this field for many decades now, and the rest of us that are working towards getting this therapy to market as soon as possible. So Thank you for your time and happy to answer questions you have.
Why don't we take one or two questions before we move on to the third speaker? Nicole?
Are you looking for clinical trial participants?
Yes, we are still looking for participants. We have another study starting next month or August, and we do wish to enroll more. So yes, please reach out.
Okay.
Where's the trial?
LA. So all the trials are going to be the trials for this year will be held in LA. The trials we plan to do next year will be multiple centers around the country, and we are in discussions with about 6 or 7 sites for them to enroll and be part of the trial. This is going to be limited to children as our first indication, and we plan to expand this out to adults right after that. So yeah.
Another question? No? Great. I'm sure you'll stick around for questions in between. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So our story involves our youngest child, our daughter Hazel. When she was 11 months old, was diagnosed with epilepsy, specifically infantile spasms, and she presented staring spells evolving into characteristic arm and head movements, and progressing to dozens and dozens of these spasms, and eventually time-finding seizures. We went through the journey involving diagnosis, EEG, imaging, multiple drugs, ketogenic diet, and proceeded to have a surgery just shy of her second birthday. She had a temporal lobar resection, and we have been very fortunate that she has had excellent outcomes from that surgery. She is seizure-free. She's 10 now, and continues to make progress through her development. But the story of Psionic is actually Sophia's story. Sophia is a bright and funny young woman in San Francisco, and she is the daughter of Jeremiah and Jackie Robison. Sophia has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy, and her parents were unhappy and unaccepting of the types of mobility solutions that she had presently and in her future. And so, as a career technologist, Jeremiah, working in multiple startup companies in Silicon Valley, surveyed the landscape of technology that was out there and that he had experience working with, and set out to come and bridge this divide between the incredible sophistication of consumer technology that we have right now, like the machine vision for self-driving cars that you see on the left, and this disparity in the assistive technology that's available right now. Founded the company in 2018, slowly built this platform and a team around it, and this year we received clearance for FDA clearance for this as a medical device in adults. The neural sleeve is a non-invasive, drug-free assistive and rehabilitation device in the form of an all-day wearable fabric sleeve that has embedded electronics within the sleeve itself, and then a pocket-worn rechargeable control unit. It's operated by your smartphone. The capabilities in the neural sleeve include functional electrical stimulation, which is transcutaneous artificial stimulation of your muscles coordinated for mobility, as well as NMES, or neuromuscular electrical stimulation, which is activation of muscles for strength, blood flow, and rehabilitation. Our initial indication, as I said, is in adults for those with upper motor neuron disorders. And we strategically went into this understanding that for safety reasons, establishing our product in the adult population would be the optimal way to go from a regulatory perspective, and give us the time needed to learn about the mobility needs in multiple pediatric neurological populations. So as I indicated, the product has two core functions. One is continuous motion analysis. And so this is something that's available in sophisticated research labs and involves the measurement of muscle activity and joint movement with functional electrical stimulation, which is used in gait rehabilitation and a couple of commercial products to artificially trigger muscle movements in a safe and effective way to account for differences in movement. We do this through continuous collection of muscle movement, so that's upper and lower leg, joint angles and positions, and additionally, we collect signal data from muscle activity. So measurement of which muscles are active at what times and the magnitude of that muscle activity. We then, within our technology, have taken all of these data and combined it into algorithms that account for the type of gait and the difference between typical gait and deliver electrical stimulation to try and increase the angles or movements needed to try and produce more optimal movements. As an example, we can stimulate from up to 1 to all 4 major muscle groups in the leg. For example, when you take a step, many people with multiple sclerosis or having a stroke have a condition called foot drop, and they need assistance lifting their toes. And so we're able to detect the intent to take a step, stimulate the front of the shin, lift the toes. We can similarly help push off, knee flexion, and knee extension. And this can be customized per individual based on their individual needs, and our algorithms adapt to them regardless of how fast they're walking, and allows them to have a more typical continuous gait cycle. We have established most of our research and our commercialization in multiple sclerosis, which has a somewhat consistent population of and type of gait deviation. And so you're looking at one of our participants and a plot of her joint movements. As you can see, without electrical stimulation, her gait is kind of halted, slower. She has a lot of challenge in lifting up her toe, and with electrical stimulation timed, you can see that her gait speed increases. It is more fluid, and she looks like she's getting more knee flexion and toe clearance as well. So we have performed most of our research on, again, individuals with multiple sclerosis. We've spinal cord injury, and I believe one individual with adult CP. And what you're looking at here is just a summary of data of foot angle, with the dark gray bar being the amount of foot angle they're able to achieve without stimulation, and the blue bar, the foot angle that's achieved with the assistive stimulation. Like the technologies that we've heard about today, the mission of our company is to assist kids like Sophia in their mobility. And so where we are is that we've started data collection with studies to characterize the gait of children with CP, to start to feed and develop the appropriate algorithms. We've also started to work on prototyping our sleeve down to a pediatric size. Again, the most important thing for us to develop a safe and effective solution is to understand the need for these gait phenotypes after an epilepsy surgery, and then collect the data so that we can come up with the right customized solution for those patients. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions. You can learn a lot more about Psyonic through our social channels at Psionicware. Learn about the trials that we have ongoing at psionic.com/trials. And I would personally love to hear from clinicians and parents dealing with movement differences and challenges at Jon@psionic.com. Thank you.